Thank you all for coming. We're really excited to have a packed house like this. Once again, my name is John Jersin. I'm a product manager with Google Analytics. Really excited to be here today. As was mentioned, I flew all the way from California to be here and talk to you today. I think we have a number of exciting things to talk about. It's been over a year since we had an event like this in this area. And during that year, we've seen digital media continue to evolve in a number of interesting ways. Some of them were just mentioned. Mobile, for example, was important before. Now it's critical. We're seeing more and more users, your users, interacting with your businesses on their mobile devices. We need to understand this behavior. Social, just a few years ago, was a powerful force in our personal lives. Now it's become a powerful force in our businesses. It's driving new kinds of interactions online that we haven't seen before, and we need to understand that so that we can optimize around it. Finally, as was mentioned, we're seeing marketers take a more holistic view of the conversion, this all-important event. Marketers are looking at every single touch point along the path to a conversion, which is why we built a tool called Multichannel Funnels that lets you do just that. But it's not just these big, new trends that we need to be aware of. The general usage of the web is shifting around us all the time. We need to be aware of this too and take this long-term view. So with that in mind, I'd like to start out by looking at a snapshot of some long-term data from this area. So all of the data that I'm going to show you was given to us by people who have specifically opted in to share data with us. And it's about users in this region. You'll see some countries, the countries on this list actually. Singapore, Malaysia, there's a few others. Japan and China are de-emphasized here. But what this is data from users in these countries. This right here shows conversion rates over the last year. And it's right in line with global averages, right about 2%, which is great. But what's interesting is how it's changing over time. 2% is excellent. When we look at the change over time, the change over the last year, the picture is much more mixed. Some's up, some's down. This isn't bad, but it's not necessarily that good. The takeaway is over the last year, as we've learned more and more about our users, these numbers could and should have been going up. But conversions aren't isolated events. They take place in the context of social engagement on your site. So let's take a look at that broader picture too. What does social engagement look like over the last year? I'll show you a metric, pages per visit, pretty standard engagement metric. Again, across the same countries, we're seeing everything right in line with global averages. The average is 4 here. This is good. When we look at the change over time again, the picture gets more interesting. Everything is moving down, almost. What about average time on site? Another great engagement metric. Everything moving down again. What does this mean? We're not seeing conversion rates increase, and at the same time, that opportunity to hook users in and drive them through for that conversion is shrinking. It's time to trim the fat off of our conversion funnels and get rigorous about this. Make sure that every page counts, every second counts on your site. We're going to talk about how to do that today. I'm going to give an overview of a number of topics right now. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'm going to talk about the new version of Google Analytics, which we launched just a few months ago. I think it's pretty cool. It's very easy to use. If you're not using it, give it a try. I'm going to talk about this feature I've been discussing, multi-channel funnels, and how that can give you new insights into conversions. I'll touch on these two big trends that I just mentioned, mobile and social. And then it'll be up to you to take everything you learn from this talk and all of today and do something about it when you get into the office again tomorrow. So let's start with the new version of Google Analytics, the face of Google Analytics. It's changing. I'm going to give you a bit of a walkthrough of this new platform that we built for several reasons. We wanted to make it easier to do analysis, and exactly the kind of analysis that you want, with tremendous flexibility. And we wanted to build a product that was robust enough to handle any new feature we needed to build. So let's walk through the UI and just get a sense for how easy this is to use. All you power users out there, when you log into Google Analytics, the first thing you see is a million of different accounts, because you're managing perhaps multiple properties. The first thing you do is just type into this box up here the name of your property. We'll give you exactly the result you want before you even finish typing. Click on that and bam, you're looking at data, your first report, the visitor's overview report. You can already see a bunch of interesting statistics, the visits over time, how that's trending, get a sense for the pulse of your site. But you can do a lot more sophisticated analysis in seconds. You can click on this advanced segments dropdown, add a couple of advanced segments. Here, we'll add search traffic and referral traffic. This will show us visits not for the whole site, but visits just for these segments, where the users came in through search and when they came in through referral. We can see how these trend against each other. But maybe visits isn't the only thing we want to look at. Let's change the metric too. Another dropdown, type a couple of letters, and instantly you have the metric you want, bam. So we're about 20 seconds into using Google Analytics, and we're already doing interesting analysis. We have dozens of these standard reports. This is just one. They're all as flexible as this one. But if you need something even more powerful, we have a tool called Custom Reports. Many of you have used it. We've made some improvements in this new version. So if you create a new custom report, you see this screen up at the top. We'll give this report a name, and we're going to do something new, add a filter to this report. It's kind of like an advanced segment. In this example, we're going to look at Canadian search traffic. And the filter that we're going to add is going to operate on a dimension, the country of the traffic. So we want to see, for this example, traffic that includes only visits coming from Canada. So if there's a particular market or a particular target audience that you have launched a campaign for, this is a great way to just keep tabs on that. When we're filling out the body of this report, we see a new option in the new version of Custom Reports, this flat table option. What's cool about flat table is you can add a couple of dimensions like you always can, and you can add anything you want here. But you can add up to 25 different metrics, get a giant table of all of the data about Canadian search, for example. And then presto, you see your data. For those of you who've been using GA, you might notice a common problem that we've had. All of the keywords here say not set, because we're getting a lot of traffic from these cities that wasn't necessarily keyword-based traffic. So we can add another filter here by clicking on this advanced search tab. What we're going to do is exclude all keywords that are not set, have the value not set. Presto, get exactly the data that we want, about exactly the audience that we're interested in, and it took about 30 seconds to do. But some of the most important changes we've made, to the product are the ones that are invisible. We've built a robust new platform. We've redone a lot of our back-end systems. We just launched a feature that leverages these new capabilities. Right now, if you go into Google Analytics, you get up-to-the-minute AdWords data. This wasn't possible before. There was a long delay. Now it's up to the minute. We plan on launching a lot of new features like this. One of the biggest and important features that we launched recently was multi-channel funnels. Let's walk through what this could do for you. The problem that we're trying to solve with multi-channel funnels is this. We all know it's very uncommon for a user to actually buy something from you the very first time they even hear of your brand. We typically think of users walking through a funnel. At the top of the funnel, we build brand awareness. We give them information about the brand of the product, and as they get more interested, they drive through for that conversion at the end. But traditional web analytics tools have operated like this. They show you only that last touch point. They don't tell you what's going on at the top of the funnel. Looking at this picture, you might think, okay, this first group came in from direct, they converted. The second group came in from search ads, they converted. What about my display ads? What about my social campaigns I've been experimenting with? What about email marketing? Does that not work? With multi-channel funnels, we give you all of the data. We tell you exactly what these touch points were for all of these users, and you can evaluate how each one of them is performing. You can finally make these trade-offs. Understand how social is performing versus display, where you should be investing more. I'm going to define some terms, and then we're going to walk through some of the reports for multi-channel funnels. This is a diagram of a series of steps a user might take before they convert. So the first step, they might go to Google search, come to your site, look around a little bit, leave, come back a couple days later via Facebook, for example. This first step we call the first interaction. The set of steps leading up to the last one we call assisting interactions. Finally, of course, that last step is the last interaction. And all of these are important. This last interaction was the only one we saw before, but now we see all of them. We see it in a variety of different ways. We have almost half a dozen reports in multi-channel funnels. I'm not going to walk through all of them today, but I will show you a couple of them. I want to show you a case study we did from a company, Omari, a company in this region. They saw big gains by using multi-channel funnels. Show you a couple of insights that they developed while they were using this, and then a couple of actions they took and what the result was. This is the Omari website. They're a great travel website, very slick design, as you can tell. When they looked at their multi-channel funnel data, this is what they saw. This is the assisted conversions report. Down at the bottom in the table, you can see they're looking at keywords that they're bidding on and how they're performing. Here we see the number of last interaction conversions. This middle column for the top row is 1. There was only one conversion where this was the last keyword somebody clicked on. But there were 11 conversions where this was one of those keywords in the path. So before, we wouldn't have valued this much. We would have said, no, this is only driving one conversion, not a big deal. Now we understand its true value. It's helping people out who are at the top of that funnel, helping them understand what the product is, driving them into the site so they can learn a little bit more, build their interest. Here's another interesting thing they learned. This is the top paths report. I've highlighted a series of paths that I think are interesting. You can tell me if you see the pattern. Basically, what we're showing here is the series of visits that a user had before they converted. So in this top row, we see direct. This is visits where they started out by typing the name of the website in, going to the website, they left. They came back maybe a day later, typed in the name of the website again, and they purchased something. There's a whole slew of these. The pattern that they noticed, which was kind of interesting here, is it's a whole lot of times where users go directly to the website. They clearly want to engage. They clearly want something from that website. They know of it, but they just keep going back, and they don't quite convert. Sometimes they'll go 7 or 8 times before they convert. This is really interesting insight. Here's another thing they learned. This shows the path length for all of their users. So this top row shows about 40% of users actually on their first visit to the website, they converted. The majority of users didn't convert on the first visit. They went back several times, some people as many as 10 times before they actually converted. So Omari thought about this. They thought about what they might be able to do. They decided that they should invest in display advertising based on the way they were seeing these interactions. So at the top, what they were doing before is they'd have this one visit, didn't convert. Maybe they would visit a few more times and convert later, but they want to drive this faster. They invested in display advertising, and they got an 11% increase in bookings for the particular property they were advertising for. That's awesome. Who doesn't want an 11% increase? Here's another insight they gained. Again, looking at the path length, we've narrowed this down so that we're only looking at CPC ads, users who came in from search ads. What's surprising here is actually most of the users now convert on the first visit. So while in general they might take several visits, when they come in through search ads, they convert rather quickly. So what can we do here? This is kind of counterintuitive. We all think of the landing page for a search ad to be kind of a top of funnel thing, but they decided to do the opposite. They decided to take their landing page, which was very simple, and add more information to it. So when they click on this ad, when the user clicks on this ad, they get taken to a rich, informative landing page, and they saw this actually improved conversions by 44%. It's huge. The vice president of e-commerce called this true accountability for all digital marketing activities. And that's exactly what we think it is. And we hope that you use it. But it's not just about these new tools that we've built. We have to react to the market also, as we were talking about these new trends, mobile and social. Let's talk about mobile first. I want to convince you of something that I think you already know, that mobile is important. 77% of users don't leave the house without their smartphone. You're probably many of those people. What surprised me is I saw 1 in 5 people would rather give up their desktop computer than their mobile device. We typically think of the desktop web as the most important touch point that we have with our users, but 1 in 5 people are saying that's not the case. It's not just the mobile web that's important, too. Apps are incredibly popular. People have lots of them. This shows the percentage of people that have varying numbers of apps. At the far right here, this 20%. 20% of people have more than 50 apps on their smartphone. What's even more important for us is these people can be reached. The majority of them respond to advertising when they see it on their mobile phone. And even better, they convert. 1/3 of people will make purchases directly on their smartphone. So if we're interested in conversions, and conversions are happening on mobile, we cannot ignore mobile. The problem of mobile, the reason we often do ignore it is this. There's such a variety of devices out there. It's complex. There's smartphones, dumb phones, tablets, a whole slew of devices. Thankfully, we've solved a couple of problems that this picture presents. One is how to track these things, and 2 is how to understand the experience on them. First problem, how to track it. You can use the conventional JavaScript for web-enabled devices. You can use server-side solutions for devices that are web-enabled but maybe can't run JavaScript. Those are the not-so-smartphones. And finally, we have their SDKs for Android and iPhone if you want to build apps. And then understanding. We just launched a couple of new mobile reports in Google Analytics. This is the first one. Our first stop towards understanding the mobile visitor is this. Whether they were engaged on a mobile device or not, and what was their behavior? Just at a high level. Did they look at the same number of pages, spend the same amount of time on site? But we can go much deeper than this. Here you can see, we can tell you exactly which device they were using. I've even popped up a picture of the device in case you aren't familiar with it, so you can understand what that user was using. And we can break this down by a variety of different dimensions. We can tell you things as detailed as what was the keyboard like on this phone? Did they have a keyboard? That might be pretty interesting if you have a lot of forms on your site that you want your customers to fill out. You start understanding what kind of mobile experience they're having. How about social? There's a couple of interesting problems with social too. One is similar to mobile. There's a huge variety of networks out there, a huge variety of types of interactions, and we want generic solutions that can track them all. Another problem is this. In the traditional model, a user goes from page to page on your site. We send page views to Google Analytics or another web analytics tool, and we understand that behavior. But what's happening now is a user will go page to page on your site, and then they'll click a +1 button or a Facebook like button. And suddenly, without creating another page view, they've sent your content to a group of their friends. This is really interesting behavior. This user is doing your marketing for you. But if you don't understand how and when it's being done, we can't encourage this kind of behavior. We can't optimize for this kind of behavior. We've solved this problem with a new feature called social plugin analytics. This is one of our reports. Again, on the first stop to understanding is how many people are using these. How many visits were there where somebody clicked one of these buttons and how many didn't? What is the behavior like? We can break this down farther. We can look at the individual social networks and the individual buttons, see how behavior is changing between these. Then we can look at this report. This is my favorite report in social analytics, a feature that I worked on, actually. This report shows on the right side the page on your site where the user actually pressed one of these buttons, and then across the top, we see which button they pressed. We can finally understand which pages on your site are socially engaging and to whom. We start optimizing your content around this concept of groups of socially engaged users coming from a variety of sources. So what have we learned? With multi-channel funnels, we see a rich new view of conversions. We're getting the whole story, and we can understand how to optimize across the whole funnel. With mobile, we're seeing more and more usage on this platform. We're seeing conversions happen on this platform, and we need to understand this behavior. We need to understand the kind of experiences that our users are having. With social, we're looking at a new kind of interaction happening on our sites that we're finally making visible and understandable. This variety of data that's being offered to you now presents an ever bigger opportunity. Your customers will be using this data. They will be exploiting this opportunity. And the reason that we're having you here today is because we want all of you to do it better. We think that Google Analytics is a good platform to do this on. But the question is, are you ready? Are you ready for the next year? Here's a few things you can do right now, or when you get back into the office, maybe. Give the new platform a spin. If you haven't tried it and you're still using the old version of Google Analytics, keep up to date. Just as we keep our websites up to date, it's important to keep the tools we use up to date also. Get ready for multi-channel funnels. Create goals in e-commerce transactions if you haven't already. These are the events that multi-channel funnels needs to key in on to show you how they happened. Item 4, start tracking your mobile presence if you're not already. And finally, start tracking social engagement. Start optimizing around that. Thank you.